So most of the large telescopes actually turn out to be refractive reflectors. And so again, here is what we call the Newtonian type telescope, primary mirror, secondary mirror, isotone star. Okay, so anyway, before I move on to this, so again, the two major advantages that we see for reflectors versus refractors, well, actually there's three. A mirror only needs to be polished on one side. A lens has to be polished on two sides, so it's already twice as much work. You've got to polish the lens on two sides, mirror only on one side. Okay, worth noting. The other thing is the mechanical support problem, which I already talked about. We can't create a very large lens because of the mechanical support problem yet. And then the third advantage is the chromatic aberration. Those are the three key advantages you want to write down. Mechanical strength, being able to support it on the back, and not having to polish two sides, and no chromatic aberration. All right, so now we're going to get into this idea of equatorial mounting. So I kind of mentioned this in passing when we were looking at that larger research telescope and the funny way that it was mounted. What we're dealing with on Earth is, of course, the fact that the Earth spins. So the spinning of the Earth creates the diurnal motion, which is the rising of things in the east, setting in the west. We look at a distant star, and we want to photograph it for a period of time. It's not going to work out real well if we lock our telescope down, because if we lock our telescope down and we point in one single direction, like up here on the wall, and we maintain that direction, the star is going to move. So it's going to smear our photograph. So what we want is a simple way to track the diurnal motion of the star and thereby have a nice secure photograph. Well, if we're going to track the motion, we can either do it by moving a telescope two ways, which you have to do with a standard, like a gun type of mounting. But if we're clever about it, we can set it up so we only have to move the telescope on one axis. That's the basis for the equatorial mount. We have to have two axes on the telescope, and we do. We have an axis here that's called the declination axis and an axis called the right ascension axis. But if the right ascension axis here is made to be parallel to Earth's spin axis, then all you have to do is rotate on that axis, and you'll completely follow the star with the other axis locked down. So it's just simple. You know, it's simpler. Now, in old days, when we didn't have computer technology, this was actually critical, absolutely critical, because you really couldn't design a But anyway, okay, so let's look at this, what's happening with diurnal motion again. So if we just stare up at the sky at night, you know, we're going to see stars moving. So this is just diurnal motion we're talking about. If we have an equatorial telescope, what we're going to be able to do is track the motion of these stars by moving the telescope only on that one axis, which is the one that's parallel with Earth's spin axis. So we probably don't need to go through this entire thing. So here we have a telescope. Now, if we just point the telescope at one fixed point on the sky, it's all going to be smeared, clear. So all these stars are moving through the field of view of that telescope, not going to get a clear photograph for any length of time. A snapshot's no problem, but if you want to actually accumulate photons to make a bright image, it's not going to work out well. So instead, what we do is the equatorial mount essentially allows us to just follow one spot. Now the telescope is actually rotating on the equatorial axis, but it causes it to neatly and simply follow that point and actually negate the effect of the diurnal motion. So here's a cross-sectional view of the 200-inch telescope in Palomar. It's one of the largest, I think it's still the largest single-lens reflector telescope in the entire world. The Soviet Union, at that time, you know, in competition, the Soviet Union existed, it was a competition with the U.S. to be better than the U.S. and bigger, better. It was kind of like, the Soviet Union was kind of like the Texas of the world. They wanted to be bigger and better than everybody. So what they did was, they built actually a larger telescope than the 200-inch mirror. I think it's like 236 inches in diameter. But it turns out that they didn't really do a good job polishing the mirror. And so there are sections of this Soviet Union telescope that they don't actually correctly focus light to the focal point. You know, you got to have the precise shape in front that happens. If you screw up part of the mirror, you polish it to the wrong shape, you're not going to focus the focal point. So they had to cover that with 100% Russian-made potato snacks. And so you think that, again, I mean, people would probably think that if you cover part of the mirror with potato sacks, you're going to see potato sacks in your image, or you're just going to see a hole in your image, or something like that. But no, that's not what happened. What happened was they just got a dimmer image because all the other revealed parts of the mirror contributed to the image, just like we were talking about before, but the part with the potato sack didn't. And so actually, it's not really as good as the US stuff, sorry. Ours was smaller, but perfectly designed and polished. Okay, so the Palomar telescope here has the two axes. Here's what we call the polar axis, which is the one that's parallel to Earth's spin axis, this one right here. The angle here, if you think about it, has to be exactly equal to your latitude, your local latitude. Whatever your latitude is, this angle has to be equal to that. If we're at the North Pole, you'd actually have this be a 90-degree angle, and the telescope would be pointing straight up, and you just spin the telescope vertically, because that would actually be perfect. It's the North Celestial Pole would be right overhead. If you just spin the telescope, you'd actually track the stars. At the equator, this angle is basically 0. So here we have Polaris. Polaris being the pole star is very close to the North Celestial Pole, and so if we look up through a hole in the polar axis, and often there actually is a little hole you can look through, we would see Polaris right at the end of that axis, and that basically guarantees that we actually have correct alignment on our telescope. So there is another axis called the declination axis right here, right there. Yeah. And we can spin the telescope around on that axis too, but that one's only used to actually point to the object. Once we point it to the object, then we lock that axis right there. So it's locked down. And we only have to rotate it on the polar axis to have perfect tracking of the star. So here's a wide-angle view of the actual 200-inch telescope on Mount Palomar, California. Really, really amazing. It weighs many, many, many tons, but it's driven with just a small motor about the size of what you use for garage door opener or something like that. One horsepower motor roughly, because it's so balanced. And it's not like you have to set a speed record with this telescope. You don't really want to jerk it around too violently. So because of the perfect balance and the low friction built into the bearings there, you actually can control this gigantic thing with very little power on the motor. Okay, so again, that's the polar axis, and we drive around that axis. So there's a drive motor right there that actually drives against that big wheel and causes this whole thing to spin on the polar axis. Now, this is what we actually call a clock drive, because it's spinning at a clock rate. It's trying to track the diurnal motion, right? So it's a clock drive, but the actual period of this clock is a sidereal day, right? Because we're trying to track the sidereal motion of the stars. We're not trying to track the solar motion, sidereal motion. So if we look at the rate that this disk is spinning, it would execute one spin in exactly 24 sidereal hours. So it's a clock drive running on a sidereal clock. All right, so getting back to reflectors versus refractors, I already kind of listed this. We have the fabrication problem with large lenses, the fact that the support problem, and the chromatic aberration problem. Okay? So virtually all of the large research instruments that are in use today are the reflector type, but there's a bunch of different configurations that can be used. And this basically depends on the type of observation that you're making, the type of instrument that you want to use to analyze the light, and the types of objects that you're looking at. So I mentioned that there's something called a prime focus, where you actually put the astronomer right there at the actual prime focus. So for a small telescope, that makes absolutely no sense. But for a large telescope, like the Palomar telescope, you can actually put an astronomer in the prime focus cage right over the main mirror to actually absorb all this radiation with their eye directly. And then the Newtonian focus is probably the most popular one with the secondary mirror, so that we can observe from the outside of the tube and not block the light. But there's a couple other variations we haven't talked about. Something called the Cassegrain focus, which utilizes the secondary mirror, but instead of sending the light out the side, it actually sends it back down to a hole in the mirror at the bottom. So you might wonder what the advantage of that would be compared to the Newtonian. And the advantage really is that we can control the light path more inside a shorter telescope. So the focal length, you see, here is pretty long actually. The focal length is off the mirror, back up, and then back down. This is a pretty long focal length. The focal length over here is just one passage off the mirror. So this is actually got a focal length that's twice as long as the focal length of the Newtonian, but in a small tube, so it's more compact design. It's also a little bit easier to hang large instruments that you might have. On the bottom of the telescope, rather than up where that Newtonian eyepiece is, you might have an instrument that weighs a couple hundred pounds. And if you put it where the Newtonian eyepiece is, it's going to throw off the balance of the telescope. But if you put it up bottom, it's a little bit easier to handle things. Now, if you have a really large instrument, you can't even do it this way. You have to actually take the instrument off the telescope, and that brings us to the more complex type of light path, which is the Coude focus, which actually has two secondary mirrors. It's sort of like the Cassegrain, sort of like a hybrid between the Cassegrain and the Newtonian. Light comes down into the primary mirror, folds back up to the secondary, comes down, but then there's a tertiary mirror, a third mirror, which then sends it up the side of the bottom. The advantage of this is that we can actually arrange it so that the light goes into the declination axis of the telescope and actually can be fed down to the control room through the declination axis. So that makes it really sweet because you can leave the huge heavy instrument in the control room and feed light down there through a series of mirrors. Okay, so here's the different types from the book, Prime Focus, Newtonian, Cassegrain, and Coude. Oh. I just thought Coude was a name, but they never capitalized Newtonian. All right, so getting into the types of instruments that we can put on telescopes, it gets us back to the question of the type of information that we can take out of radiation that we receive. So, of course, the most basic information is just the color of the light from the star, because I was going to determine the temperature by Wien's law. We can also see emission and absorption line patterns that can indicate the composition of the source. We can see shifts that can indicate the velocity, and we can see line broadening that indicates temperature and rotation speed. So we want to extract all this information from light using types of instruments. So here's just a kind of brief list of things that we could do with the light. We could view the image directly with an eyepiece. That's what we do during public house, open houses, things like that. We can put in place of the eyepiece a photographic plate, which is basically never done anymore these days. Or a CCD camera, which is basically just like your camera. You know, this aluminum with like 41 megapixels or something. That would have actually been a research class Hector, only about 10 years ago. Now it's in a cell phone. This is an advance in technology. So CCD cameras, not too different from the Lumina, are actually used in astronomy. We can also use a couple other devices. Suppose we just want to look at the brightness of the source. If we just want to look at its brightness, we're not interested in the spectrum or anything like that, we can count individual photons using a photometer. So we stick a photometer onto the telescope and it simply counts all the photons that we're seeing. And this is good if we're looking at something like a variable star. Variable stars have variable brightnesses. But you don't really care so much about the spectrum, you just want to know how bright they are. So you can track their brightness with a photometer, and variable stars give a lot of useful information from that type of observation. You could also use a spectrometer. Okay, so this is actually measuring the spectrum. Spectrometer is basically like a spectrograph, the kind of thing we talked about with a prism, or sometimes it's a grating that causes the light to be spread out. And we can also use something called a spectrophotometer, which is like a bunch of photometers, but looking at different parts of the prism where the light comes out, so that you can count how many red photons, how many green photons, how many blue photons separately, and get that information, which you might need for certain types of operations.